Hey everyone, I hope you can see me and hear me. I'm Paula. I'm a children's dietitian and I'm here to take all your weaning questions today for your baby club. So welcome, and I am really happy to be here. Sorry, I had a bit of a technical glitch in the beginning trying to get this going. So I'm just getting myself set up and then I will start answering all your questions. Okay. Okay, so sorry, bear with me, just trying to get to all the questions. Okay. So we're just getting things ready and people can start typing all their questions. So I can just see they're starting to come up now. Okay, so we've got our first question coming up here. So the first question is, I'm looking to start weaning my little girl soon. She's 23 weeks. I'm thinking of doing finger foods and purees. I'm just wondering how to buy and use the food when portion sizes are usually big when bought. Do I freeze leftovers? Thanks. Okay, great question. So 23 weeks. So the first thing to say, the weaning age that we recommend, we don't necessarily recommend a specific age. It's around 6 months, and also looking for the developmental signs that a baby is ready. So a baby could be ready at 23 weeks. So the types of developmental signs that you're looking for them to be ready are that they're sitting up on their own. It can have a little support in a high chair, but they shouldn't be sort of really flopping over or hunched forwards. Able to hold their head and neck really well themselves, hold their head and neck steady. They should also be able to look at food, pick it up with their sort of palmar grasp, their fist, and bring that food up to their mouth. And another thing to look for is the loss of the tongue thrust reflex. So they shouldn't be just sticking their tongue out straight away when they're eating. They should be able to actually take the food and start moving it to the back of their mouth. So just to say that quickly about the developmental signs. Then in terms of the question about buying foods and the portion sizes, absolutely, yeah. So you can if you're buying a pouch or a jar of something, you can take that out and freeze it into ice cubes if you wanted to, or just check on the jar or the pouch. They usually say once opened, use within a certain amount of time. It's usually within 24 hours. So this is one of the reasons when it can be more helpful to make some of your own foods at home, because obviously you can make a batch and you can freeze the rest in little silicone ice cube trays, and then just take out 1 or 2 ice cubes at a time. So yeah, initially when you first start weaning, there's not going to be much in the way of volume that babies are eating. It's all about sort of tastes and exploring the foods, and so we're not concentrating on volume, and they won't be eating very large amounts. So yeah, really good idea to freeze things to use at a later date. Okay, so let's just check if there are any other questions coming through. Okay, so someone asked if it's developmentally, if it's better developmentally to do baby-led or traditional weaning. Okay, so just explaining to people the differences between them. So with traditional weaning, it's using foods which have been pureed or mashed, and then feeding those off a spoon, or baby can use their hands as well, but it's using a sort of more of a mashed puree texture at first. And then baby-led weaning is using pieces of food which baby picks up themselves and feeds themselves. there isn't really any evidence to say that one method is necessarily better than another. With purees, even though if you do start with purees, we do still recommend from 6 months to start introducing soft finger foods. When we say soft, we mean soft enough that you can kind of squish them between your two fingers, between your thumb and your forefinger. So that's the kind of texture that we're looking for with soft finger food, so that babies can use their gums to mash that food. So there isn't really any clear evidence that says that baby-led weaning is definitely better for a baby developmentally, or that purees or traditional weaning is better. There isn't really any evidence that says one method is necessarily better over the other. What I would say, if either method that you use, is that you try and feed responsively. So that means to try and pick up on your baby's cues in terms of when you think they've had enough, if they're still opening their mouth, if they are still interested in the food, if they still that means that they still want some more. If they are turning their head away, clamping the mouth shut, start crying, moving around, those are the cues that they've had enough. So either way, whether you use traditional or baby-led weaning, it's really important to try and feed babies responsively. Okay, so we've just got a little poll coming up now, just asking people at what age they started weaning, because as I said, this does vary, and there isn't, I always say, don't necessarily go by the calendar as such. So looking for those signs of developmental readiness and not necessarily the specific age of your baby. It is usually around 6 months when we start seeing those developmental signs, but for some babies it might be 5 months, 5.5 months, 6 months, so it might be somewhere around that time. Okay, so let's see here, we've got another question coming up on the side. So this is a question from one of the people in our Facebook group. My 17-month-old started off as an excellent eater, would eat anything when we started weaning. Vegetables, meat, and I kept away from sugar as long as possible. However, just before her first birthday, she became ill, and since then she refuses most things apart from fruit, which she will eat a lot of, and Weetabix and porridge. I cannot get her to eat anything. Any advice would be appreciated on how to get her to eat healthier meals. Okay, first thing to say, this is really, really common, and you're definitely not alone. So we find it's very, very typical of toddlers when they get to about 18 months or so, this little one's 17 months, that they start refusing previously liked foods, or they start not wanting to try new foods. And that is really typical of toddlers. So it's perfectly normal and nothing you need to worry about, and is most likely just a phase. Okay, so the first thing I would say is it's not going to be forever. So don't worry, your toddler will start eating things again. Keep offering. So after a period of illness, it's very common for children to go temporarily off their foods for a little bit, or for them to only want to eat particular things after being ill. So what I would say is still carry on offering the foods that you want them to have. Offer things and do it in a way that you offer one particular food, which is one that you know that they very likely will eat, so something that they like, something that's preferred, and alongside that offering something that they may or may not eat, and then another food which they may not like, or may not have learned to like yet, or may not eat particularly very well at the moment. So offering a variety of things means that that child will have the opportunity to find something on the plate that they do enjoy, and they'll be able to find at least one thing that they're happy with, and they'll feel more comfortable to try other things. Another thing with toddlers, which can be really, really helpful, is to get them involved in food preparation as much as possible. So get them involved in anything to do with food. So preparing food, cooking, chopping, washing food, packing away groceries, any of those things, to get them interacting with food. So in order for us to actually eat the food, that's kind of the final step. There are a number of other steps before that that we need to take that children need to take in order to actually learn to like that food. So first of all, it's just looking at that food. Then it might be picking up that food. Then it might be picking up the food and maybe smelling it. Then it might be just sort of squishing it between their fingers. So there are a number of steps, and these sort of sensory steps that they can take in order to eventually try that food and to eat it. Okay, so all those things can be helpful. So it's not necessarily just at the mealtime, but at other times of the day. Playing with foods, messy food play can be really, really helpful for a child like this without any pressure to eat the food. That can help them interact with the food, which in turn can eventually help them to eat that food. So I hope that's helpful. With a 17-month-old, messy food play is particularly important, and then that can really help them to learn to like different foods and textures. Okay. Okay, so someone else has asked about early weaning. So this particular person says, I've been advised to begin early weaning my 17-week-old son due to reflux and possible intolerances. How much milk ounces should he still be getting on top of food per 24 hours? Okay, so first of all, to say, I know you have a reflux expert on your baby club as well. So weaning, often pediatricians do advise earlier weaning for babies with reflux, and just to say that doesn't necessarily help. In fact, with a lot of babies starting weaning who've got reflux, it can actually make their reflux worse. So just to say, it's not a sort of definite, or it's not necessarily a completely recommended or understood thing in terms of early weaning and reflux. Okay, there is research to say, in terms of early weaning, there is research to say that babies who are at increased risk, higher risk of developing food allergies, so those who have early onset eczema, so eczema within the first 6 months, particularly within the first 3 months of life, and those who have an existing another food allergy as well. Babies with either of those are at increased risk of developing food allergies, and so weaning from 17 weeks or 4 months with introducing egg and peanuts as peanut butter or ground peanuts can be helpful for those babies in terms of allergy prevention. But that's a particular group of babies to think about. So how many ounces of milk should you still be getting on top of food? So that's a great question. Sorry, my cat's joining our live here. Even if you start early weaning, the beginning stages of weaning, you would just be looking at very, very small volumes of food, tastes of foods for your baby to be having. So I wouldn't want them to decrease their milk, either formula or breastfeeds, their volume very much at all. So at that particular age, they would still be having, the vast majority of their nutrition would still be from milk feeds, their formula, or their breastfeeds. So First Steps Nutrition has got a great guide. So Charity has got a great guide in terms of milk feeds at different ages. But at that particular age, depending on the weight of the baby, they could be drinking 900 or more mils of milk, 1,000 mils of milk sometimes. So that's they would still be having really the same volume of milk and only be having little tastes of food on top of that. Okay, so I hope that is helpful. Just having a look at the bottom we have had some polls. So just looking at people asked which method of weaning did you use or will you use. Vast majority, most people said either mixture of both methods or traditional weaning, and a few said baby-led as well. So quite a mixture there. And at what age? Most people said around 5 or 6 months, and about 40% said not weaned yet. So they're still getting ready for weaning. Okay, so just coming back to the questions here. Okay, so I'm due to start weaning my 6-month-old on a dairy-free diet as he has CMPA, which is cow's milk protein allergy. I'm planning on doing as much homemade as possible, as from what I've seen, a lot of prepared food, baby food contains milk. I'm looking for some advice and recipes to make him, as I'm pretty clueless. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for that question. Just to say, I've got a huge amount of information on my Instagram grid, as well as on my website, Tiny Tots Nutrition. So my business is called Tiny Tots Nutrition. And so you'll find a huge amount of information about cow's milk protein allergy on both of those resources. And I think they've been linked as well, so you'll be able to find those. So in terms of other places to find recipes and things, the Allergy UK is a really great resource. So they've got some fantastic resources for all types of allergies, including cow's milk protein allergy. There's a couple of books that I usually recommend to my patients in terms of milk-free weaning. So there's a book called I'm Hungry. It's by a dietitian called Tanya, Wright. And if you Google that, you'll find it on on Amazon. So that's called I'm Hungry by Tanya Wright, who's an allergy specialist dietitian. So lots of fab recipes and ideas in that book. And then there's another book, another allergy recipe book, which is, I'll put the link up later. I'll send it to your baby club. It's called Your Allergy Friendly Baby and Toddler Cookbook. And that's by 2 mums who have got children with allergies. So I'll send that as a link as well. So those are 2 great resources. And then and then in terms of some other recipes and things, so those are 2 really good resources. And you can also, of course, when you see a dietitian, you can ask them for some more recipes, and they'll be able to give you some more milk-free recipes as well. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, and I think, sorry, just one more thing to add to that. I think Jasmine has put a link up on here, or we'll put it up on the Instagram live. I have also got an ebook, which you can find on my website, which is all about meeting children's calcium requirements when they're on a milk-free diet, if they've got a dairy allergy. So check that out. It's got lots of recipes and ideas of different products and things in there to help you. Okay, so got another question here. Okay, so this is about my 11-month-old clams up after 3 to 5 spoonfuls of his food, and when given to him to feed himself, he squishes it all up. Do you think that 5 spoons is enough for his age? Okay, so first of all, to say, one of the most common questions I get asked is about portion sizes and how much should my baby be eating. And it's really difficult, really understandable why people are asking that question, but it's a really difficult question to answer because every baby is so different. And babies' appetites vary hugely from day to day and week to week. So they might be teething, they might be ill. There are lots of reasons why the appetite fluctuates, growth spurts, why it fluctuates from day to day. So I would like to know a little bit more information about this one, as it's a bit difficult to answer just with that information. So it might be that they're just having a particularly off day or off week and they are teething or something like that going on. It might be that they're filling up maybe a little bit too much on their milk feed. So I would like to see their kind of routine in terms of when they're getting milk feeds and when they're having solids. At 11 months of age, you can offer, your baby should be quite established on solids. So at that point, you could offer food, for instance, in the morning at breakfast time. Instead of having any kind of milk feed in the morning, you could offer food straight away as breakfast in the morning, and then only a little bit of milk later on. So it'd be quite important to see the routine of this little one, to see what they're having in terms of milk feeds and food, and whether we need to sort of spread those out a little bit. You've asked if 5 spoons is enough for this age. As I said, on some days it might be, if that child is having a day when they are just having a bit of an off appetite that day. I would look at their growth, so their overall growth, how they're doing with that. That gives us a very good indication as to whether babies are having enough energy overall over a long time. So try not to look at each particular meal or each particular day just as individually, but try to look over a few days or a week what your child is having over that time period. And so that can help in terms of looking what they're having, not just at one particular meal. Okay, I'm just going to take one more question, and then I'm going to head over to Instagram to answer some questions on there. Okay, so there's a question here about how many times a day should I offer my son food. He started weaning at 5 months and he's now almost 7 months. He normally eats soup with lots of veg and meat twice a day and puree fruit mid-afternoon. Should I start offering baby porridge in the morning? Should I start offering baby porridge in the morning? So he's now almost 7 months old. So between 7 and 9 months, I would definitely expect a baby to be on around 3 meals or offered food 3 times a day. So he started at 5 months, so by 7 months, I would expect baby to be having 3 meals or 3 opportunities to eat food a day, and then milk feeds in between those times. So the milk feeds sort of mid-morning, mid-afternoon, bedtime, those are kind of the snacks in between, and then the foods, and they might be having a feed in the morning as well. So I would, for a child this age, they would be on at least 4 or so milk feeds a day, and whether that's formula or breast milk, and 3 meals a day. You can offer porridge in the morning. Oats porridge is a great option. It's very nutritious. You can add lots of toppings and lots of different things to it, to add lots of nutrients like seeds and nut butters and fruits and all sorts of options. You don't have to. Some countries, some cultures, they don't really eat breakfast cereals or porridges as such. So you don't have to offer that in the morning, but it is a good option to be offering a 7-month-old at this stage. Okay, so thank you again for all your questions. I'm sorry I was a little bit late going live in the beginning. That was just a bit of technical difficulties. But I'm going to head over to Instagram now, so join me there if you can. But otherwise, I will see you next week, Wednesday, 2 o'clock, on the Your Baby Club Facebook page. All right, thanks a lot. Bye for now.